Well, hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Speak Out Loud channel.
Hey, you guys.
We are so glad you're watching us again today and checking this out. We are Speak Out Loud. So, Speak Out Loud is a nonprofit that is founded by Stacey, my wife, and the focus and the purpose of Speak Out Loud is to share hope and encouragement for those who struggle with mental health and for those who love and support them. And that's our story, that's our journey. We shared in the last two videos really at length about our story. And so we'd love for you to go back and check that out. But today we're going to be diving in for a few minutes to talk about a specific diagnosis, which Stacey struggles with. We as a family have lived with for many years, and we want to dive into that. We're going to do a couple shorter videos about that just to hopefully provide some encouragement, provide some hope, and provide some information. So today we're talking about the diagnosis of borderline personality disorder. So you may be familiar with that, you may not, but it's something that has been a diagnosis which Stacey has lived with for many years, and it's impacted her life in many, many ways. And so I just want to talk about that for a little bit, Stacey, just what that impacts look like and what that's like to live with that. So I know that one of the big places this comes out is in your relationships, is in living in relationships, which you love, you thrive in, but just how does that impact, particularly your friendships?
It takes a lot of energy. For those of you who have this diagnosis of borderline personality disorder, it's just so fun. It is my one of my hardest ones of the 6, and that is because I do love people. I do love relationships. And I know there's also a lot of stereotype around borderline. And so sometimes I feel like the main thing I'm trying to do is kind of bust through those thoughts that people have when they hear the word and hear those words, and also let myself know that it's okay that I have that because I
That's
didn't
right.
create it. So
That's right, yeah.
it's a tough one though. And so first, I wanted just to address this relationships with my closest friends and even some acquaintances, but mostly my closest friends. I think they're impacted the most. And I would like to say that when I know I've taken my medication and I know I'm doing my best with borderline, because I do take medication for it or I don't even have a chance that day, that it's my responsibility to do that, and then I leave the rest to them trying to also learn about me and kind of watch what borderline personality is about. I can only explain it so much, but it does affect other people more than some of my other diagnoses. So, anyway, it's kind of a big deal.
Well, and I think borderline, there's a lot of definitions to it, and a lot of ways it outflows in your life, Stacey. I think it certainly is very much a product, a symptom for many, many people, which includes you, your story of really long-term exposure to trauma. And I think one of the key diagnoses of that is that it creates a fear of abandonment, whether that's
Yes.
real or perceived, and it particularly plays out in your relationships and your friendships. So I know that that's very real. Just even more of that, what does that look like for you, and how do you live with that? And yet you have great relationships and you have great friendships, but I know the behind the scenes burden sometimes that puts on you.
One of the main triggers for me with borderline is that feeling of what if I get abandoned again? What if they decide to leave? Because I have seen that happen with my family, in my own life, and with friendships because people don't always know what to do with someone who has borderline personality disorder. And all I want to say to that is welcome. We don't always know what to do either. For me, sometimes it really stands out to me. I can really see the trauma linked to my actions and my mindset in some seasons, some days, some moments. And so I think it's really important for your friends, your closest friends, to look it up. Mayo Clinic has a great definition. I feel like it's expansive. I feel like it is very clear. And I can't do it all. I can't in the relationship be the one, but I do find myself pretty often saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And I can't also live my life like that. So this is not for me to defend one of the toughest things you can hear about borderline, but it's also to say it's like an umbrella over diabetes. One person may have different reactions than another person does. There are so many different shots, so many different regimens. Well, for me, I'm on a very strong medication for it, and it takes off the edge. But when it comes to my friendships and everything, they are so precious to me. I don't want to be hurtful in them. I don't want to be too much. I don't want to pull back to where I'm back to those times of isolation and not being a burden because I'm not even around them. So it's just my mind loops all day about what I've said, what I've done, how I feel about that, and then I project what did they feel about that, and I'm just sure I know, with honestly not very accurate, but I don't know that in the moment. So the days can seem really hard with that. And I try to protect my friends from that part of me, but I can't always do that.
Yeah.
So it's just a tough one.
And I think that for those that love someone that struggles with borderline, it takes patience at times. It takes a lot of reassurance.
Mhm,
I think one of the things I see, Stacey, for your life,
mhm,
and I think many people that struggle with borderline, is that everything feels like it's always on the edge. Like you're just one little push or one little mess up or one little misstep away from everything kind of falling off the
mhm.
edge of the cliff. And that can be hard. And I think another analogy I've seen sometimes is like that there can be a hole in the bucket. And for those that love someone with borderline, you may feel this way or recognize this. It feels like I can pour in, you can pour in, you can reassure, you can say things. But a lot of times there's a hole in that bucket that's draining some of that away. So it may feel like you have to recover some of that ground or reassure. But for the person that struggled, that really is also very calming, very, helpful to their mind because I think, Stacey, when you said your mind goes to, like, all the different options of how things could be interpreted or what could be happening in this situation if a friend doesn't respond to a message or if, something is left out there that's left dangling, that can be really hard in communication, and that's why I think for you too, face-to-face, in-person communication is really important
Yeah,
and
get
really
to that.
valuable.
Yeah, most definitely. But it's hard for all involved. But I feel like I pray that what I have to offer overrides the person wanting to not be in my life anymore. So I just always, sometimes I can over reassure them that I'm going to get through this and everything's going to be okay. But most of that is just me walking it out and showing myself that I'm going to be okay with this heavy diagnosis. So yeah, it's a lot.
Well, if you'd like to know more about borderline, we're going to be sharing about this several times this week. But also, you can check out a great resource on the Speak Out Loud podcast. It's a episode of our podcast which Stacey and I have produced. We're joined in that episode by LPC Phoebe Barron, who specializes in trauma treatment. That episode is titled "Brain on Fire," and you can find that on the Speak Out Loud podcast. We share it several different ways. It's about an hour long, but it's some great information and we have received so much incredible feedback from so many people that says, there's so many things out there about borderline that are just not hopeful. They just don't present a lot of hope.
Mhm.
And yet we've heard from so many that that episode, that podcast spoke hope into their lives. And for those that struggle and those of you that love them, let me just tell you there is hope for those that struggle with borderline. It does not have to define your life ultimately. It does not have to destroy your life or your relationships. Stacy's evidence of that. She has many great healthy relationships. We've been married 32 years and we work through that, we strive through that, but it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of resilience. And Stacy, I'm just so appreciative of your resilience through this journey to always stick with it. So we just want to
Thanks.
leave you that with that today, that there is hope for those that struggle with borderline and you can experience it. So anything else you want to wrap up with today, Stace?
Hang in there. Hang in there with me on this. I know that some of them are more commonly talked about, but we'll get through it and just know you're not alone in it. And you
That's
can
right.
continue to follow and hear more about it from us this week. Yeah.
That's right. You're not alone. God bless you guys. We'll see you soon.